Welcome to the Connected Spirit Podcast, a space where the mystical and the human experience merge, where we explore what it really means to walk a spirit-led path. I'm Courtney Dawson, an ethical medium and mentor, and for as long as I can remember, I have felt the presence of the spirit world. But my journey hasn't been simple. It's been one of self-discovery, healing from religious and emotional trauma, navigating fear, judgment, and the loneliness that comes with embracing something the world doesn't always understand. This podcast is here to take what was once considered woo and bring it into the real lived experience of being human. Because mediumship isn't just something we do, it's who we are. Here we dive into the conversations no one else is having, breaking down misconceptions, exploring the unseen, and normalizing the journey of deep connection. We'll talk about the beauty and the struggle of being a medium. We'll laugh, we'll reflect, we'll go deep. And most importantly, we'll remember who we are, why we're here, and how spirit moves through us all. So if you've ever felt something more, if you've ever questioned the unseen, or if you're simply ready to embrace the fullness of your spiritual path, you're in the right place. Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome back to the Connected Spirit Podcast. Today, we have an incredible guest who is a new friend of mine, and I'm so excited to introduce her to you. Her name is Kelly Brickel. She's a numerologist, psychic medium, healer, spiritual teacher, and owner of the metaphysical broadcasting company, Sacred Spiral Network, which actually launched in 2024. With over 12 years of metaphysical experience in service as a professional reader, healer, and teacher, Kelly is a certified master teacher of psychic mediumship through Lisa Williams International School of Spiritual Development. She is also a certified Reiki master teacher, co-author of 2 books, and a dedicated numerologist that travels around the United States demonstrating her gift. Kelly's passions are learning about the soul and energy, whether connection through spirit, emotion, or vibrational numbers. There's always a pathway to information waiting to help. And you can find Kelly's teaching, conversing, and sharing her gifts weekly on the Sacred Spiral Network, as well as her podcast, the Psychic Hour and the Numerology Hour. Kelly, thank you so much for being on the show. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much.
It's cool because I've been on your show, I've gotten to know you a little bit more. You got to know a little bit about me. I love your energy. I love your transparency, your authenticity, and you're very much spirit led, you're heart centered. And with that, you're just, in addition to all of your experience and knowledge, you're just a really great fit for the show. And that's why I'm so happy to have you here. So, you are a psychic medium, you are a numerologist, you are a teacher. You have a lot of hats that you wear in the spiritual community. Before we kind of delve into that, I'm wondering if you can take us back to really the beginning. Was there like a moment or experience that you had that awakened or brought to your awareness these spiritual abilities that you had?
Sure.
I should say.
Yeah, sure. So when I was a teenager, I was having a lot of health problems. And I was really a go-getter when I was younger. So I liked to be active. I liked to be playing sports and social, and it was just fun. I have a playful disposition, and I used to, use that by just being out and about, right? And living life to the fullest. And my body started not working because I had trouble sleeping when I was a teenager. I would just try to go to sleep and my brain wouldn't turn off. It was just, even with meditating that I would try to do, I just felt like I was just connected to this live wire. And so I started meditating more, trying to figure it out. I started reading self help books. And really, during that experience, it was very difficult. So it was almost like I left my body because my
Mhm.
body wasn't working, right? When your body gets so run down because it's not getting sleep and your immune system's so low, you go, I'm not even me. And you start the conceptualization of what that is on an energetically, emotional, mental level. And so during that time, I started very, very deep self-awareness. I didn't even mean to, but I started to become very energetically sensitive. I didn't know what was going on, but that was the opening stage for me.
Wow. And is there anybody else in your family that has mediumistic abilities or psychic gifts?
Yes, I didn't know it until I started asking and digging a little bit more. But my great grandmother, she was a healer and a reader, and people would come see her. And they wanted to kind of keep it hush hush because she was in Puerto Rico and Catholicism was
Yeah.
something that was integrated and they wanted to get rid of the old ways. So if you weren't a part of the Catholic Church, you would have people maybe even coming after you if they knew that you did something other than practice Christianity. So she was a Christian and a Catholic, excuse me, she was a Catholic, but she continued to give readings and healings on the side, but they didn't talk about it a lot because they didn't want the kids to know about it. They wanted to keep things safe. So it was taught to not to have that passed down to person. And when I used to ask my grandma about it, she's like, I don't remember much. You're helping me to remember even just asking about it. So definitely intuitive, sensitive people on my family on both sides. But that's the only person that I've known who actually had that connection within career.
Wow, that's wild, eh? And that's really difficult back in the day, and even so many different parts of the world, Kelly. Like, people are still forced to stay in that spiritual closet for fear of being excommunicated from the church, from their community. Like, there can be some really severe consequences that are detrimental to people. So, what an incredible brave lady she was.
Yeah. I wish
Definitely.
I didn't even get to meet her. She lived to be 102.
Wow.
And yes, and I finally got to go to Puerto Rico, but that was the year she passed away.
Mm.
So, but it was amazing because I talked to my grandma just trying to learn more. And she said, when I was younger, I used to see people walking around my bedroom at night. And that's some of the things that my mom experienced. And I prayed to make it go away.
Yeah.
So I would learn little pieces of their story right here and there. But it did run, I guess, on my side, on my mom's side of the family. And yeah, I wish I would have gotten to know them more, definitely, because I have no idea how she came into her gift. I have no idea.
Absolutely. That's so interesting. And, for listeners that are hearing our conversation, often those that have these abilities, when they do a little bit of digging, find out these are actually hereditary. It's usually not just with us. It might have skipped a generation, but often there is that lineage. And so it's very, very interesting. How did you end up getting into numerology and mediumship? Because those are quite different as far as modalities and spiritual connections. So what did that look like for you?
Yeah, they're totally different. Oh my gosh. Like, I don't even use numbers in my readings unless I'm doing just numerology. It's funny because I get readings sometimes and they will mention a number and it will be a message to me, but I don't think about it like that when I'm actually reading, right? I don't employ it. I got into them both because in the beginning stages, I was trying to find about if this was all real. Like, I looked at it from a very cerebral perspective, even though I was having a lot of energetic occurrences, and I felt like there was something to it. Like, I was feeling people's emotions stronger. I was hearing what people would think, and I was trying to verify, like, oh, is my head on straight, right?
Hmm.
So I started reading a lot and trying to understand myself. So I finally understood that being a psychic and medium was a real thing. I was like, okay, I have enough proof inside and outside of me where
Yeah.
check. Well, there's a bunch of people who are astrologists and numerologists, or they read runes or they read cards. Is that all BS? Because that's not a direct link. It's not the same thing. It's not even the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, the more I get into it, we're still using our intuition, so it can be similar. So I definitely understand that. But I was trying to conceptualize it again. And so I looked at astrology. I love it now. But I was like, I just don't get it because I was trying to understand it through the horoscope in the newspaper. And
Hmm.
astrology is not that. It's not that at all. I was trying to read online. There wasn't a lot to read online because the internet was kind of new at the time. The books that I read on these things, I don't know. I just didn't get it. But I went to numerology and I was like, I don't know why, but I'm able to find patterns when I'm researching this. And I didn't read the books. I was just looking at the numbers once I figured out how to do it. I started finding patterns within personalities of people who are life path 2 or life path 3, or their essence. Like if someone was in the public, or if I knew them personally, I'd be like, well, yeah, their essence is kind of like this archetype. There's something to that. So very quickly, I just had a connection to working with numerology, and I kept it in my back pocket for a while. I didn't always put it in the forefront, but I always studied it because I really, really liked it.
Wow. That's so fascinating. So even your own intuitive abilities and your own spiritual nature has given you a different view and outlook on the numerology.
Yeah, definitely. And I came across this woman. A lot of people know who she is. Her name is Glennis McCants, and she is a very well known numerologist. So I came across her books, and I'd watch her videos online, and she's so good. She's so good. She's so accurate. And the way that she'd read, I'm like, oh. And when I read her books about her mechanics, I'm like, that's what I figured out to do, and no one taught me that. So
Mm.
I really, really, stepped up further, going, this is real. The things that I've come across, they're working because someone does this for a living, and she's so good at what she does. So that fueled my passion further with it.
Yeah, that's so incredible. So for someone who's never thought about numbers this way, how would you actually describe like the soul of numerology?
Numerology is the study of numbers, and it's the study of energy through numbers and archetypes. So, energy is, you could argue, when you start to learn about it, it's code, and numbers have code. So, they're vibration, right? They're frequencies of vibration. So, when I say, and this is just one way to put it, hi, I'm Kelly Brickell. What I'm saying to you is, hi, and I'm just going to make it smaller than
Yeah.
larger. Hi, I'm Kelly. I am 25337. Okay. So I'm a two vibration. Hello. And you're going to feel that vibration off me when I speak, because I identify with that code, whether identify with the energy I was born into and that shapes me, or I identify with the name that I've chosen, or how I present myself in other ways with the things I have chosen.
Mm.
Those are made up of words and vibrations, and they have meaning, and they have subconscious impressions on people. It's rather fascinating. People's personalities change when they change their name, and it's not just because I feel more like this. Their preferences change, their attitudes change, and they're really in alignment with numerology as well. So it's mind boggling.
This is so fascinating to me. Wow. So I just want to make sure I'm hearing this because I mean, like I said to you before I started recording, I've had a numerology reading. It was fascinating, but it's so different than mediumship. There's a lot to unpack with it. So you're saying that numbers influence everything in our life from our name to the date and time we were born to how we conversate with people and show up in the world. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but most importantly, vibration influences everything within our
Mm,
life. And the numbers are just a translation of the vibration.
wow, that is incredible. So, what is something that when you have clients come to you, or you have somebody on your show, or you're interviewed, and someone is like, I don't get energy of numbers, or they have a preconception of it. What is like one of the most common misunderstandings that you get about people have towards numerology? Because for me, when I had a numerology reading, it was so fascinating. There were so many parts that were spot on, Kelly. But then the way the no, I don't know if this is the style of the reader, but then some of it I was like, yes, there's going to be vibrational frequency within these numbers, but then at the same time, I have free will, right?
Yes.
So for you as a reader, what would be like one of like common misunderstanding that people actually have about numerology? Like, do they think it's predictive or they are stuck in being in a certain frequency or vibration?
Well, it's interesting because on one hand, numerology, even though it's out there, a lot of people are still learning about it. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
they can't argue against it if they're not
Yeah.
if they're not kind of even sure what it fully is. So that's why I'll get a pushback maybe, but they won't be speaking to me about the numbers themselves, right? So it's kind of more about oh, is this even like a thing, right? Can you read energy? It's kind of that pushback. I would say that it's funny because you can see if somebody right away from their chart, if they are very cerebral or skeptical, it actually will show up in the chart. And you'll just go, oh, this is like a part of who you are just
Mm.
naturally. And I don't know. I mean, the pushback is sometimes you'll let someone know like hey, you have a certain energy that does A, B, and C, and the person you're inquiring about has an energy that does A, B, and C too. Like let's say it's a relationship reading, and you'll let them know their personality is like this, and they'll say yes, they're like that. But can't I be with them? And it's just like, of course you can. You're just gonna have difficulties, and they're like, well, is there a way to fix those? And it's just like, no, you would have to surrender, the way that you do life, and you'd have to surrender a lot of your ego. And yeah, maybe there could be harmony after that, but it's like one person likes to drive fast, the other person likes to drive slow. One person is a homebody, the other person longs for adventure. Like you just have
Yes.
different wants and needs and desires. And a lot of people are like, can I change? Can I change? And it's just like, a lot of us are just the way we are,
Yeah. Set in our
honestly.
ways. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you really have to kind of like get into the super state of flexibility to be past that. So you have to be open to all things in order to be past these frequencies you were born into, or actually that you assume as your personality. You have to transcend that. And people don't understand that they have to do so much work to transcend what they've been originally given.
Oh, that's some serious, serious inner healing, inner work there. And that makes so much sense to me because you wonder why certain people are the way they are and you just can't figure them out. And it's so you're saying that these numbers are really an innate part of their personality, and you can't just change people's predispositions to be a certain way. They like things for a certain reason, they act and respond a certain way outside of environmental influence.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that is so
Like
fascinating to me.
it is. If you have a lot of fives in your chart, you're going to be a more restless nature. You're going to be somebody that can't sit still or constantly wants to learn new things.
That's
And
me.
we have to look at your numbers. I'm curious. I'm really
Yeah.
curious. But people with cerebral numbers, their mode in life is they want to expand. They want to expand their perception. They want to expand what they can do, and they want to push the limits of what reality is. And so that's I'm always going to keep going, 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 going. And there's other people who, let's say, they're more socially motivated. So they want interplay, they want help, they want community, right? They have no interest to always pushing the limits. And then there's kind of another sector. There's like kind of three major sectors in numerology with what people kind of want if you got really generalized. Then there's
Mhm.
another sector of people want to balance, whether they realize it or not. They want to figure out what is. They don't want to push the limits on things. They want to understand what they already have. They want to improve it, so they become, let's say, the best at what there is, or they heal what people are dealing with or what they're dealing with, so they want to improve or stabilize. So you have these different modes and different categories, and no one's just one thing. People will be dominantly one thing or another. And when it comes to relationships or friendships, you either support the drivers of who someone is, or you can actually agitate them. And that's
Mhm.
being very black and white. And human nature is not black and white, but you can actually see why things don't work with people, or why you would have difficulty unless people are very, very accepting and have very strong self-awareness as things come up. Wow, this is difficult for me right now. Okay, I don't see it like that, but I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. I understand that you see it like that. It's a lot of understanding both sides and oscillating
Mhm.
between the two, and most people cannot do that. Heck, most spiritual people cannot do that on an ongoing personal basis every day.
Oh, preach. Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow, what a great explanation. Thank you so much because that as I'm listening to you is making so much sense in certain relationships that I've had, romantic, personal, friendship-wise, even coworkers, where some people just get on with them and they love them. And then for whatever reason, I was like, I just don't vibe with that person. There's some
Yeah.
like major aha moments. So when we're looking at numbers, do numbers speak to us? Like, for example, we'll see repeating numbers or a pattern of numbers. Like for me, I see like 211 or 311 or 911 or 711. Like I see these numbers all the time. But for me, when I look at my little reference books of angel numbers, the messages don't always resonate. So I guess my question is there a way that numbers can communicate with us outside of our name, birthday, etc., and outside of a reading? Since they're a vibration and a frequency, I'm really curious about that because we know astrology impacts us. We know spirit communication takes place, so a discarnate being talks to us. I'm curious, can numbers communicate with us?
Yeah, I think they are building blocks of the universe. Vibration is building blocks of the universe, and I feel
Mhm.
like they can be utilized to get certain points to us. Or like energy attracts like energy. So if we are going through those lessons, or if we are those things, we're going to be more attracted to those numbers, and so
Mhm.
they'll be shining and mirroring back at us to let us know about ourselves. And I also think spirit can utilize them as a message too, as well. So I think they can be utilized in a lot of forms outside of a reading. Um, the most traditional way is a chart reading, and then you can read numbers as well, not within a traditional structure. I'm a Pythagorean Western numerologist. Do I do everything by the book? No, but that is a lot of what I do. And yeah, so all numbers have, again, the codes, and the angel numbers were inspired by numerology. They actually are not numerology.
Oh, okay.
They were
Okay.
actually made famous by Doreen Virtue in the early 2000s, and she is not a numerologist. She probably read about numerology and took concepts that were similar and made people kind of, think on these things. So some of
Mm.
the angel numbers are actually very, very similar and even correct with what numerology would teach, and some of the ones are really not in line. The angel numbers are master vibrations. And so what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take a master vibration when it comes up, and that's what a lot of people are seeing. And so those aren't the 711s or the 911s, but they're the 111s or the 222s. So it's like
Gotcha.
it's a built up frequency that repeats itself. So it generates a lot of power. And the other ones can too, don't get me wrong. But the repeating numbers are the same number are considered master vibrations. And when
Okay.
that happens, you actually consider the repeating number. So for instance, like a 222, I would consider the 2 and the 6, but foremost the 6. Now, if I got a 711, that is a repeating number, but not a master number. And I wouldn't look at the 7 or the 1 or the 1, I would just look at the 9.
Gotcha. So in numerology, you add all of those numbers up to a single digit.
Yes.
Gotcha. Is there like a particular number or pattern that you've seen show up like repeatedly in your life? And Did it
Yeah.
teach you anything? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, yeah. So, wherever I go, I usually run into an 8, a 9, a 2, or a 4. And those are numbers that are harmonious within my chart. And a lot of times it's an 8 or a 9 I will see. And I talk about it a lot. Like it will be in a transaction of a receipt or an order number, or it'll be a random parking spot that I have, or something where my energy goes, oh well, you're like this anyway, and it kind of just goes zzz, on average you'll
Mhm.
probably receive a number where it is like that, and a lot of people miss what numbers they're given because they're like, oh, if I have a, like, I'm making up a number, a 22258, they're like, I got three twos, I'm so two
Yeah.
in. No, you have to. What's the sum collective? That's what numerology is. The sum collective of what the universe gave you. That's your number. So a lot of people are not even adding up the vibrations that they're getting all around them. And that's like the heart of numerology, unless it's a master vibration.
Wow. This is like complex yet so fascinating to me. It's like when you're studying something in science. That's how detailed this is. Like this is absolutely incredible. Now, you not only do numerology, but you're also a psychic medium. When did you make that transition into working with the world of spirit?
So I started off with working with that more in the forefront. So I would say I started getting like really serious with it because I did a lot of research. I went to like a lot of classes and workshops where I did not consider myself that title. I was just learning so much about intuition, and I watched other people lecture. And I just really took it in stride. I didn't even understand what that meant to be one, other than watching, actually finding somebody finally here and there to watch them do what they would do. So I finally embraced like training and working and becoming that around 2011 and 2012. So I signed up for an extensive psychic class, and also I was doing Reiki around that time where I got my certifications. And then the next year after that, or like the year and a half after that, I took a mediumship class with like Lisa Williams. And so I really was like, when I felt the time was right, I was like, I'm there, I'm in it. It was a lot of holding myself back and actually learning a lot more than most people knew. So I would show up and people would be learning stuff that I was like, oh, I've already read about this, I experienced this, but I did not consider myself in any form being a medium or a psychic. So,
Wow.
and I overthought everything, even when I was getting stuff. So it was a lot of fighting myself, even though I did so much work actually when I did show up. So it was a mixture of being ahead of the curve and behind the curve and correcting that where it needed to be. But yeah, that was like around, that chunk was around 2011 to 2013 where I really was like, okay, I'm really taking this seriously, and I'm becoming this. I'm becoming a psychic medium, not just thinking about it, not just trying it out for size. Yeah.
Really stepping into this calling of yours.
Yeah.
So for those of the listeners that are listening, and I honestly, I call us all developing mediums simply because I think we're always learning and growing from the spirit world, even outside of taking classes. I think we're always learning more about ourselves, the spirit, and how they communicate. So for like developing mediums, those that are listening, how would you, Kelly, say like numerology can really become like a spiritual ally rather than just a system?
Oh yeah. So like when I'm teaching about numerology, most people who come are not people who want to do numerology. Maybe they're curious
Mhm.
about it. Maybe they want to utilize it in some way, but I just say, "Hey, if you're intuitive, this is a tool for you to learn about energy. If you're sensitive to energy, it will teach you how to be aware of another part that you can utilize in your readings. You're going to become sensitive to vibration, and whether you use it for this purpose or another purpose, it helps you trust yourself." So I have people come to learn about being a psychic or medium, but this is like a modality of psychic work. So if you're really good at numerology, you'll probably be a good psychic as well. And I studied numerology and studied being a psychic medium, sure, around the same time, but I put myself out there as a psychic medium before I actually put myself out there as a numerologist because I had to
Mhm.
figure out how to articulate everything that I knew in my head. And it was almost like there was like this landslide of information like hitting the back of my throat every time I wanted to like present a thought because it was just so
Mhm.
much. It was so much of having to remember everything and then be in flow of how to then speak and tell people about who they are and be very fluid at the same time with the energy coming on in. It took additional practice for me.
That's a lot of work that you've done over the years to get to where you are right now. And that's really led you to where you are, not only as a numerologist and a psychic medium, but you're also a teacher. What would be something that you would say to every spiritual student who would want to know? What would you want them to know from the start?
To every spiritual student that they would want to know from the start. Well, it's kind of funny, like you mentioned about your methods. And I have a similar belief system, like to know thyself, know thyself.
Yes.
So I think that whether we have a good idea of ourselves or not, we have to start understanding the difference between our own energy and another's energy. It could be a
Yes.
house's energy, right? It's just residue. It could be your mom, your dad. It could be your spouse you live with. It could be your pets. You have to know what's yours versus another's to start to really be, I guess, a reader because you're going to get so many impressions. You're going to think thoughts that feel exactly like your thoughts, but they're not your thoughts. You're going to feel feelings that feel exactly like your feelings. They're not your feelings. You have to separate the two. So you need to do that work. And
Yes.
that is a huge helper in everything. And I could go further into.
I absolutely 100% agree with you. This is what I teach in the connected spirit method that I was briefly talking about on your show because so many different teachers and practitioners, maybe no fault of their own, it's just how they were taught. And so they just kind of keep perpetuating the same teachings and philosophies. But a lot of them will teach you how to do a modality, let's say how to connect with spirit. Yet they're showing you the mechanics. Sit in the power, attune, connect to spirit. But yet, with these frameworks, and mediumship in particular, with these frameworks, there's still so many people, Kelly, that doubt, is this them? Is this their imagination? Could this really be spirit? And I absolutely agree with you. In order for you to fully trust what you're getting and to be confident in your abilities, confident in the message you're giving, you have to know thyself, period. I think that's like the foundational step. And then we start looking at connecting with another soul's energy and then looking at how do we connect with a discarnate person, right? Yeah, it's
Yes,
really
I
important.
I 100% agree. And there's another step that I employ that I don't think that like this is something that I don't think everyone agrees with, but
Yeah.
I take it a step further because since I know myself and I know on certain days when I show up, my I know how can I put it? No day is the same. The more you better take care of yourself, the more you're gonna have a less of a variance. And that's about
Yes.
self-care. That's about self-maintenance. But if you know that, let's say you're having a hard day and you know that part of your energy is not working the same, but you're still able to do your job and feel confident. Sometimes when energy comes in, I'm aware that I don't see as clearly on that day. I don't hear as clearly on that day. I'm aware that I'm not even going to feel as clearly on that day. And it could
Yeah.
just be even with family or relationships. It could be in a certain, even just little sector of my energy. So when I get that coming on in and it doesn't feel clear to me, because if it's clear, my knowing kicks in. If my knowing is missing, I will just say, this is what I'm feeling. If my feeling is missing and they show me a picture without a feeling or a knowing attached, I'll be like,
Hmm.
forgive me, I'm not quite sure what this is, but I'm just going to share the picture with you. All right.
Yeah.
Or forgive me, I'm hearing something a little bit mumbled. I'm just going to try to do a little bit justice. I believe that this is wrong, but I'm just going to put it out there to try to do justice because it is coming in, but I'm aware of my own incapabilities right now. So I'm very, very honest and I'm not afraid to be like, I don't know at this time. And there's a lot of people that teach where it's like you need to be in the power. You say, you know. And I'm just like, again, I'm not saying this is the perfect method. I'm just very honest with the way that I read. And I
You
just try
have
to do
to.
best.
But you're doing it ethically though, Kelly. That's what's beautiful about it, right? Like I was always taught to say, or when you're giving a communication, don't say I feel 100 times, but if I'm feeling that, shouldn't I say that? You know, if I'm seeing that, or if I know that because it's coming through the claircognizance, why wouldn't you say that? But I think when it comes to ethical mediumship, we have to be really transparent. We don't know everything. And as humans, we have human bodies and we have real human experiences, and those can impact our clarity when we're working psychically, working with numerology, working with the spirit world. We have to be honest. And I think that's where we kind of separate the wheat from the shaft and we can really bring, I want to say, raise the standard of mediumship and go, we don't know everything, but this is what I'm experiencing. Would you understand this? Does this make sense? I love that,
Yes.
Kelly. This is why I love
Thank
you,
you.
girl. This is why I love you.
I love you with that. Thank you for loving transparency and being down to change.
I love it. Let's talk about your beautiful work that you're doing over at the Sacred Spiral Network. It really feels like it's this beautiful extension of your spiritual gifts. What inspired you to like create this?
Sure. Well, it was like two things. So first of all, I've always been interested in just, media from a radio perspective. That probably sounds bizarre, but when I was younger, I went to radio camp because I loved listening to talk radio. And when I was younger too, like as a teenager and having the health issues, I would listen to Hay House Radio a lot.
Yes, I remember that. Hay House Radio. Okay.
It was great. It still exists, but it's not as prominent.
Yeah.
And they had just the best hosts on. Oh, it was just so good, and I would listen to that all the time. And I just had a connection to it. So I wanted to go to radio camp for talk radio, and everyone was there for music. And I just went for 1 year. Like I found out about it the last year I could sign up, things like that. So I would have expanded that part of me if I could. But I didn't really go into it ultimately because when you get into the radio industry, you don't get the prime hours. You have to get the 4 a.m., the 2 a.m., the graveyard shifts. And here's me as a kid learning about how to be, energy sensitive and have energy management and just really trying to figure it out. It's just like, I can't disrupt my sleep schedule even further. That sounds very detrimental to my
Mm-hmm.
being. So I always kind of wanted to do it, but something about it. So finally, one day, I found out about WLTK-DB when it existed, and it was a paranormal digital online station. And they brought together so many wonderful people. Like Michael Christopher was on that network. Let's see, Torrin Anthonson was on that network, and just Deidre Sanford. And so all people I'm still connected with, even with Sacred Spiral, that help out in some capacity, and or a hosts, right, with shows already in work or coming up. And Todd Bates was the one that created that, and then he had to step away. And so I was like, you can't just not have this tool available for people to start up shows, to share who they are, to put themselves on platforms. It reminded me so much of a Hay House Radio. So I was just like, we can't just like X this from existence. So what I did in 2003, when it happened at towards the end of 2003, I started taking on all those skills. I had him train me, and I learned. And in 2004, I started getting people involved, right? To because it took time and foundation and things like that. And so that's how it came into being. It was like, this is beautiful. I've already loved this all my life, this concept. I'm not gonna let this die under my watch. Like, it's time to take action. That's how it came into being.
So definitely something that's been inspired by the universe, by the spirit, by your own soul.
Yes, yes. So
And
it'll, and yeah, yeah, there you
it's a
go.
beautiful network that you have, and the hosts, the quality of the programs, the producing, the production, like it's fantastic. You guys go check it out.
Thank
Now,
you.
Kelly, you have many different hats like we've talked about and we've learned about on the show. How do you hold the balance between teaching, creating, producing, being a numerologist, being a psychic medium, and being in your own spiritual process? How do you do that? Because that's a lot that you go through, a lot that you do.
Yeah, I'm always learning. I'm always learning, but I feel like it's going well. I feel it's not easy, but I'm figuring out how to utilize my energy more effectively. And I think, how can I put this? I'm honored that I have to be more responsible in my life. It makes me a better
Mm.
person. So I feel good about it. It is a great honor, and there were so many years where I worked so hard where I did not get a lot of work. And I was just always working to improve myself. So I was utilizing a lot of energy already,
Hmm.
even before I got busy. So when I finally got busy, and I am busy, and right, it's changed so much over the years because we're talking about a lot of different phases within my life. I felt like I was okay because I had been wanting it.
Mm.
It's not easy though, believe me.
No, even when you get your heart's desires, it's still requires time and effort and energy and balance and adjusting, and it's part of the human experience too, right?
Yeah, and some days I win, I feel, and some days I go, well, a little more work in that area. Um, but yeah, yeah, I think it's the full circle thing. I have to make peace with, like, sleep, and that's the start of my story. And I feel like
Yeah.
once that's a little bit more into place, and it really is, the more and more I live my life. But now I've, all this other extra energy to be aware of, and move forward
Mhm.
in. Um, I'm still healing that part, but once that is in place, I think there's just going to be even more ease. So I'm aware of how easy actually all this can be. My spirit is saying, "Here's the roadmap. Will you listen? Though? Will you listen?"
Mm. That's so powerful. If someone who's listening to this episode feels drawn to numerology or mediumship, but they really doubt their path, what would you tell them?
I would say that it's okay to doubt. That's human nature, but be aware of how you are being pulled. And
Mm.
it's not wrong to try something, even if you potentially don't do well. Just see what comes of it. We need to just try where we're led. And so if you're constantly asking yourself, if I get this sign, I'll try this, or it's been 5 weeks of me getting little signs, but is this the right? Yeah, still, I'm not sure. I just, this is a really weird one. What I'm doing is really, really weird. I don't believe it still. I don't. Just, you're led there. Just accept
Yeah.
that you're led, and then do something with that. Accept that you're led. It doesn't have to make sense. Just accept it. That's what I would
Such
say.
good advice. Such good advice, Kelly. Kelly, can you let the listeners what you know what you have up and coming and how they can get in contact with you?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, you can get in contact with me on my website, kellybrickel.com. And I also have other platforms, so Instagram as well, LinkedIn, all the normal socials. But yeah, my website is the best place. And then I'm blessed to be teaching in Lilydale on August 8th. I'll be teaching a numerology workshop up there. And then later on in the year, I'll be up in Port Gamble, Washington, doing a mixture of like psychic mediumship, maybe numerology. So right now, it's a lot of just you contact me directly for a personal, or there's a couple events in the air. I'm still shaping some of them even for this year. But that's what I have going.
You're a busy lady and sounds exciting what you have up and coming. Kelly, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been so great to get to know you a little bit more, your backstory, to learn more about numerology. You are so humble and grounded, yet so wise. And it's just been so great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Courtney. I mean, back at you. Thank you so much. You're awesome. I love the knowledge in your head and all the work you've put into being who you are too. So I have a Mercury and Virgo placement. So my Virgo honors your Virgo.
Oh, thank you. And if you don't know, now you know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. The Connected Spirit isn't just a podcast, it's a remembering of who we are, a remembering of our connection to spirit, and a remembering that we are never walking this path alone. Mediumship isn't just about speaking with spirits, it's about deepening the connection to our own spirit, to one another, and to the energy that moves through everything. So as you leave this space, ask yourself, what part of this conversation stirred something within you? What connection is spirit inviting you to strengthen? If this episode spoke to you, please share it, leave a review, and connect with me on Instagram at Medium Courtney Dawson, or visit my website at mediumcourtneydawson.com. Your presence in this community matters, because connection isn't just about what we seek, it's what we are. Until next time, trust your spirit, trust the unseen world, and trust that you are always, always connected.